I walk on my treadmill, and it's been a game changer.
My one question for you on walking desks is, can you do like deep work while you're doing it?
Yeah, I think you just can't get close enough to the screen. I don't know about you, but when I'm like working on data specific tasks, my face gets really close to the screen and I just can't get close enough while walking on the walking treadmill. So, no, it's not great for that, but I find that I'm like more well-spoken and thoughtful in meetings when I'm walking.
Did you see that Disney thing? Disney came out with
That's
something.
wild.
It's nuts.
The whole team is
Nuts.
like in a walking meeting. I saw this on LinkedIn, I think.
Yeah,
Made like it's like an artificial, or it's for like VR. They made like a carpet that basically like you can walk and the whole thing moves with you. So you can walk in any direction and like it moves your VR character without you ever actually having to physically change location.
That's crazy. I wonder how your balance would be though in like a VR headset while you're walking. I feel like that might be a little scary.
I just don't know if that treadmill is that like floor is cohesive to natural walking. It just came out and it's sort of cool. Here, I'll send you the article. I pulled up an article. I'll put it in the chat. Sean, you want to introduce the podcast?
Yep. This is Sean Collins,
And I'm Ibi Syed.
and this is Numbers and Narratives.
We've got Rebecca Blount on today. She runs Coterie's CX team. Rebecca, question for you. How would you synthesize all of the cool conversations that we had today? What do you think the overarching topic is?
I think the overarching topic from today was probably how do you make every customer feel like they are the only customer?
Couldn't have. Yeah, that's perfect. I don't think I could have said it better myself. Sean, any insights before we get started on the podcast?
Empathy and data is all it takes.
Oh, love that. That's perfect. That's perfect. This is awesome. Rebecca, again, thanks so much for coming on.
So our audience is marketers, it's CX people, it's data people, it's ecom kind of leaders or whatever. But everything is really about like, how do you do your job well to improve retention and experience? And how do you leverage data to do it?
Cool. We had a cool one this morning, Ibby, with the Coterie Slack alerts.
Tell me more. Actually, Sean is also a Coterra customer,
Oh,
but
cool.
in a very different way. Do you
Yeah.
want to give him a brief explainer on what we do with you guys and kind of talk him through what you did?
Yeah, sure. So I spent a decent amount of time before Coterie at Peloton in ops. I had moved away from kind of the customer experience component. And so the data was very like black and white, right? It's all numbers. It's easy to manipulate. So fast forward, I'm back at Coterie, and now I'm very data minded compared to how I was when I first kind of entered the CX space. And so I was looking for a way to look at that qualitative data in a quantitative way. And Ibby reached out literally at the exact same time. And he was like, hey, we have this product. And I was like, the product's awesome, but like, this isn't really what I need. What I need is to look at all this data across all of these channels and to create a voice of a customer. But also, I'm trying to create this experience where every customer feels like they're the only customer that we have. So in order to do that, I need to understand each touch point, and I need to know when they have questions or when they're leaving negative feedback. And so Coterre's done a lot for us as far as that like overarching customer journey and understanding more about what they're talking about, what they care about, sentiment, et cetera. But the thing that I'm the most excited about is this tool that Ibby and team set up, where if a top customer, and that's determined based on spend and a few other things, leaves a negative comment, even if it's like a 5-star rating, the sentiment of the text is negative, it triggers an alert to Slack. And so then my manager, who manages the CX team and is like truly kind of a white glove concierge expert, she was in a high-end hotel before a subscription business in her most recent role. We reach out directly and we basically say like, hey, let's win them back. Let's elevate their experience. But this was one that was super interesting because she basically was raving about the product, saying how incredible it was, how much they love it. Her one pain point or sad moment was that she realized she couldn't get this Charlie the Bunny that we include in a newborn gift box because her baby's now in size 2 and the gift box only has newborn in size 1. And so we sent her a bunny. And she like lost her mind because it was a 5-star review. Most people don't read 5-star reviews. We don't either. But because she mentioned this like one thing she was upset about, we were able to send her this like very inexpensive but very cute toy. And she said it made her kid's day and it was perfect timing. And she was like so delighted by it. Kind of cool.
Super cool.
I just read the response from the customer. That's so adorable. I love that a
Isn't
lot.
that adorable?
That's awesome.
And that would have never happened without like knowing that this top customer was
Yeah,
sad they
no,
didn't have money.
no one thinks to set alerts on 5-star reviews.
No, because they're happy. So we don't need to
Right.
do
Why would
anything.
you?
Right. But if they mention one thing that they're unhappy about, even if it's not even about the product, it's just like, man, I wish I could have that bunny. The model picks it up and we're like, great, here's the bunny. We're happy to send you a bunny.
I mean, that's really interesting to even think about. Like, so I just went through your built with, and so obviously you're a Shopify brand, you're on Klaviyo as your ESP, and so I mean, like, I guess there's like both incredible ways you could do this and kind of like, I guess like a crawl, walk, run, right? Like having Coterie build this entire like sentiment analysis bit to pipe in and then Slack to you is incredible. And that's beyond running. That is like a full 100-meter dash sprint. That's like Usain Bolt. But like I guess like a crawl version of that, right? Klaviyo has the like notification alert step you could add in there. And so you could build a segment of like these are our, top customers, or you could even like build one per kind of whatever kind of ranking system you have. And then anytime they leave a review, have that be the trigger and have a notification go to your team. And so that way, even if you are a CX team of one, or, for all the people who just have an e-commerce brand and don't have a CX team yet, you could still start to get these alerts and figure out like, okay, if you're a super strong customer, or maybe kind of like a at-risk customer, we're going to set these alerts and I'm going to always follow up with you and say like, thanks for you could even just like say, thanks for the review or something, right? Like it wouldn't be at nearly as cool of an experience. Like the idea you said of making every single customer feel like they're the only customer is one of the most badass things I've heard. But there's always a crawl version of every run, right?
Completely. It's interesting you say that because that's like one of my favorite business theories. A mentor at Peloton talked about how I was so lucky to have such incredible mentors at Peloton. Basically said like it doesn't again have to be so black and white. There's that gray. So maybe the ideal solution is having Ibby and team create this amazing thing where I don't have to read through every single review, but not everyone's going to have the budget to be able to do that. That crawl step is equally as important, I think.
Yeah, I
Maybe
mean
more
that's a chance to learn, because if you go straight into sprinting, you're gonna add some cost of just like trying to figure out like, was sending that bunny gonna actually brighten her day, or do some people just like to complain, right? Like, do some people just you aren't going to satisfy them, or what are the points where it is like worth a surprise and delight? I think that's something that I definitely want to dive into today is how do you scale surprise and delight? Because most brands you struggle to do either one of those, let alone both of them. But there's got to be a way that you can do some of this just at an 80% level or a 60% level, just trying your best.
Totally. And I think like, Ibby and I talk a lot about surprise and delight because we just implemented a surprise and delight program. But one of the things that we talk a lot about is like making every customer feel like they are the only customer also means that every customer has an equal experience, right? So you have to segment a little bit because bottom line matters and you don't want to spend a ton on a customer who isn't spending anything, but you also want to be fair and equal and make sure that like just the customers that are complaining or reaching out aren't the only ones that get delighted. And so that's a topic we've been working on because our current surprise and delight program is based on customer contact, reading those contacts, and then looking for those moments of wow. But you can't do that at scale, one. And again, then you're rewarding people for reaching out, which
Right.
we get into contacts for order later.
Right. And yeah, and even just like I've always had that issue just watching other, I think airlines are an interesting one, right? Like your flight gets canceled and there's the person who goes up and makes a big stink and is rude, but they get bumps, or they get upgraded, they get whatever, just to like, hey, you're making a scene, like don't make everyone else also have a bad time. And it's like, hey, I was polite and waited my turn and was respectful, but I guess now I'm waiting 2 days for my next flight. Like that sucks.
Totally.
And like, how do you want to reward people for being just good people?
100%.
Okay, cool. So maybe we should start with you telling us a bit about what you do at Coterie and what Coterie is.
Coterie is a modern baby company, I think is the best way to say it. They have a awesome subscription model. You can also make one-time purchases of what I truly believe to be a superior diaper product. And a lot of our customers also believe that. It's softer, it's more absorbent. And so something that's as mundane as changing a baby's diaper feels much more luxe than it does with, and I won't throw anyone under the bus, but I'll say the typical store-bought diaper. We're growing quickly. It's been awesome since I joined a year ago. The team is small and nimble and awesome. And I think even more importantly, the team really cares about our customer. And so I was brought on to lead the CX team, both in strategy and operations, and make sure that we were creating that best in class customer experience. We're a premium product. People care about service, they care about speed, they care about all of those things. And so I was brought in to elevate the team and make that happen. We have built not only, I think, a white glove concierge team, but also an extremely cost effective team. Our team is 100% based in the Philippines, which you often don't hear about, and they're direct hire. So that's pretty crazy to be able to create a close to 5-star experience every time with a non-US based team.
And walk me through kind of your team and like how many people there are, what kind of roles or specialties they have. And then maybe also, some of the other teams that we're going to talk about that you have a lot of interplay with, like what's the marketing team look like? What is your data team look like? All those kind of things.
Yeah, sure. So the CX team is small but mighty. It's me, and then oversight by the head of ops as well. Her name's Paige Zachs. She's incredible. She's ex-Warby, ex several other startups, super smart. I'm learning a lot from her as well. And then I have one US-based full-time headcount. Taryn is a rock star. She's the one that I briefly mentioned before, but Taryn has a background in subscription, but also in high-end hotels. So she was previously a concierge. She was previously concierge at a high-end hotel. And so some of the things that she brings up and mentions are things that like the average human doesn't think about. So she's kind of like our true white glove expert. And then Taryn leads a team of 15 associates. And then we also have an AI bot and a non-AI bot that I also consider part of a team.
You're all using Sienna for the AI bot, right?
Yep, we're using Sienna. So Sienna is connected into customer and answers a small portion of our contacts right now. We're like towing that line. We're at that stage where it's like, okay, what does white glove look like with AI? And that's a really complicated question. So far, our approach has been, what do our customers value and what do they look for? And speed is something that comes up over and over and over again. I actually did like a quick with ChatGPT-4 like review of all of our 5-star reviews and found that speed was one of the top mentioned words when we get 5-star reviews, which is a bit of a leap, but we'll just say our customers really care about it based on that data. It was like 50% of our 5-star reviews mentioned speed in some format. That's pretty crazy. So Sienna's really pushing and driving into that speed factor. She can respond within 3 seconds. Like no human could do that. So we'll never go 100% AI. We'll never go 100% with any bot because we care so much about that like white glove concierge experience. But the more that we can automate, the more that we can, in those moments that matter, give the wow moment as well.
That's awesome. One question for you. I kind of want to actually go back to what you were talking about before you introed yourself. I'm going to spend a couple seconds. Coterie is a really successful company. Y'all are super nimble, super fast. I think compared to a lot of the other folks that I've talked to, you've got a team that is really cerebral in the sense that they're really focused on making sure that they're leveraging data, they're leveraging the tooling that they have. What about let's say that you're a company that's doing a lot less in revenue, right? You're a CX team of one, you're an email marketing team of one. What are some ways, some easy signals that you might be able to scale surprise and delight with a lower budget? What are some signals that you used before you had Sienna, before you had Coterie? What are some things that you looked for within the tooling that you had to be able to do that? What are some simple things that you think businesses can do?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we are a product for parents. Parents are really in a really interesting phase of life. There's a lot of emotion involved in those first few months of parenthood. You're exhausted, we'll call it even sleep deprived. Your entire world has shifted, and now you're responsible for a human, and you're still looking for the most adult in the room. And so when parents are reaching out to us, they're in this like really pivotal time in their life where they're like, I barely know what's up and down. And so one of the things that we looked for was exactly that, like sleep deprivation. And so if a customer mentioned like, man, I made a mistake. I'm so sorry. I was moving too quickly. I forgot to change the size of my diaper, or I meant to delay this order and it shipped. So sorry, sleep deprivation. I thought I'd already done it. In those moments, we'd be like, wow, this person, one, needs to be felt embraced a little bit, right? Like, we got you. Don't worry. It's on us. No problem. But then what could we do beyond that? That wasn't just like, here's a discount code to our business, or here's a bunny that maybe you don't want. So we thought, like, what do you really need in that moment? We were like, a cup of coffee or a meal, right? That's like our friends set up food trains for us. You feel loved, you feel cared for in this like very odd, pivotal time in your life. And so that's what we do. We send not a ton, not an expensive cost, right? But we send like a $10 gift card through a really cool program called Giftagram. And we basically just say like, hey, we got you, we get it. The order's on us, you know, we'll change the size and send you a replacement. We'll refund you, whatever works. We're happy to do what's right for you based on the information you gave us. And then secondarily, like, nothing to do with our business, but we want you to know we see you as parents and we know you're going through something. Here's $10. Like, go get a coffee, order dinner in. Obviously, they can't order dinner in with $10, but here's a moment for yourself. And the response has been wild. We thought like, oh, what's $10 going to do? Like, are they going to care? The answer is yes. CSAT for these delighted customers, we hit about like 10 to 20 currently every 2 weeks, 100% CSAT and 100% response rate. So not only are they giving us this like stellar CSAT score, they're engaging with the brand at a higher rate than they were previously. So it's been pretty wild. It's not expensive. And again, we did a quick analysis on like, okay, how does this impact our dollars? Because in the beginning, dollars matter. Every dollar matters. We know that, especially in the startup world. And so we found that if they told one person, two people, it lowered our cost per acquisition pretty substantially and paid for itself like 110%. I don't remember the exact number, but it was over 100%, 100x.
Yeah, I mean, very like put very simply, if every 100% CSAT score has I'm going to do some math just on the fly here, has like a 20% probability of referring, and that customer becomes a customer on average for like a year, right? Like diapers are what, $100 a month? Like, I actually don't know how much. I'm not a parent, so I don't actually know how much Coterie diapers are, but I'm
It
going
starts
to
at $75 because of the discount if you subscribe and save. Otherwise, it'd be $90 for a pack of 198 count hippie.
I love that. I
Just
love the
simple,
fact that you
simple.
know this off the top of your head.
I know
I'm
that you
gonna,
remembered. Impressive.
yeah. So
If you can do math, I can just memorize other people's math.
I love that because that means that each acquisition gets you. I'm gonna make it easy and do 75 times 12. That's $900. And so that means that each individual, if it's a 25% chance of, I'm just gonna make that number up. Let's do 20, right? Let's do 20. That is each $5 or each $10 coffee that you're giving someone has a return of $180. So that's $170 on average that you can like get back. And people don't ever think about that, right? Like people never think about the CAC of like surprise and delight. And that is just some very, very easy math right there. Where if 100% of people are like, oh my goodness, I love you guys gave me a cup of coffee, it's such a simple gesture. If you can automate that in some way, if you can set up like a Klaviyo segment that says, hey, anytime somebody like matches these criteria, let's send them an email of that. Like anything that you can do to scale that is fundamentally a growth hacking strategy. Like what you're doing is, and it's awesome because it's a win-win on every situation. You grow your business, your customers are really loyal, they're really, really happy. And that is this number one thing that people love about you, is just how amazing the customer experience is, how much, how much care and thought goes into everything, and it really just justifies like, the time and energy that they spend doing the research and picking like a brand that it's just a great experience. It's an awesome company.
Well, what's cool about it is like, right, the math just works out that well, and it is the right thing to do from a business perspective. But what's also cool about it is that Rebecca didn't once mention a focus on return. It was truly like, we're going to try and serve our customers, and that is, the mindset you're talking about is make everyone feel like the most important customer, the only customer. And so even if you got really negative with this math to be like super hyper conservative, right? Let's say, okay, it's a $175 return or $170 return, assuming 100% of people are retained. What if only 10% of people are retained? That's still that's a 70% ROI. And then you talk about, that's a really pessimistic view. It's going to be better retention than that. You also talked about referrals and word of mouth. So that drops your CAC for other people. Most brands, or a lot of brands, will give you a 10 or 15% discount to make a second purchase, which is a bigger cut to your bottom line than buying someone a $10 cup of coffee. And on top of that, it's a bigger cut to your bottom line, but it's also just not a experience you tell someone about. No one goes and says like, oh my God, I wrote this review, or I sent in the CX ticket and I got a 10% off. You guys totally should go buy from this brand. Like, that's just like, okay, yeah, I got it. Some marketers set up this automation for buy again with 10% off.
Totally. It's truly amazing too. Like, it's a good morale boost for the team. So like, not only do the numbers math, I'll say, but the team is excited and stoked to do it. So we have customers who reach out who are in really challenging times in their life. They had a really hard delivery and they're in the hospital, or their baby's in the NICU. And these are moments where the team also feels empowered to connect with someone. And when you connect with your customer, you're more excited to show up for work the next day. And you're more excited to do work for them because you realize that they're human. And so I think a lot of teams also don't realize what a morale boost it is to give some control to your CX team and let them own that experience. Like, our team specifically has a budget every month, each associate, they can spend that budget on whichever customer they want. So this example of like, I'm exhausted is one, but if someone mentions they're moving or traveling or doing something else that they personally like really relate to and feel like this is a moment where this person could use a boost because traveling with a toddler is, I just won't even go there, wild. They can be like, great, here's a coffee, for your trip with your toddler. Good luck. I mean, they of course don't say it like that. They don't want to terrify these like first time or second time, third time parents, but it also gives them that opportunity to really pause and connect and feel good about the work that they're doing.
That reminds me, when Klaviyo was, a much younger company, they used to have every employee would rotate through and be on chat support. And so you'd write in for help, and sometimes you'd get an engineer, sometimes you'd get like a product person, sometimes you'd get whatever. And it was fascinating for me because you'd ask a question, you'd get like very different responses based off of like the background and skill set of somebody. But I think they did that largely to be like, don't forget that the reason you're doing your job is to solve this person's problems and make their job better and easier, and get them exposure to what are these problems and what are the symptoms of it, and what is that voice of the customer. And so many companies have, I mean, it's really hard to remember to keep your customer as the hero and not your task list or your stat or whatever.
Totally. I think it helps a lot too that a lot of us are parents. So we like innately relate to our customer because we're in the same phase of life. So I think that's like front of mind for our team more than most, but we've also set up like really interesting ways to make sure that the customer stays front of mind, like beyond a program like that. I hope to get there one day. We actually like have a program similar in works in the background, but because the business is moving so quickly, our team's so small, we keep pushing, kicking the can down the road, so to speak. But we have some Slack channels where when you see a really positive customer review or a really negative customer review, you can share it with the broader team and everyone jumps in and comments. And, a lot of times it also highlights and elevates the work that people are doing behind the scenes that does feel a little bit faceless. So the marketing team doesn't always see the response to the email that they push out. And so we're able to share those things and get that marketing team really excited about how they're impacting our customers, even though they're maybe not directly working with them. So like a good example of that is we just did a push for our pant. We have a product called the pant. It's a 360 pull-up. It's really awesome, absorbent, soft. I'm biased, but I think it's great. And we just sent out an email basically saying, like, if your baby's on the move, it's a great time to switch to pant. This customer engaged with CX, was asking some feedback, some information, and then just off the cuff sent us an email and was like, I just want to thank you. We tried the pant in the size that the CX team recommended. It works great. It's perfect. Our marketing team was like, whoa, this is awesome. Like, we just pushed these customers a marketing email about this. Like, could you send me the customer's email? Send it over. They were in that cohort. So they had gotten that marketing email. Then they'd engaged with CX. They had such a positive experience that they felt inspired to contact us one-off. We shared that into the Slack channel, and it was like an indicator outside of the data, right, that this marketing email was working.
That's so cool. What, speaking of data though, because it would be, we're almost out of time. It'd be bad if we didn't talk about data a little bit more. What are the stats that you do look at that another CX team, if a company's just starting or really trying to think about CX, what are the stats that like they need to figure out and focus on?
So I like to think about data in kind of a two-tier approach. You have your top level data that shows the overall health of your business, your customer experience, etc. So one is contacts per order. So if your contacts per order is super high, then there's friction in your customer journey. They're having to contact you at a high rate when they place an order. It's not good for a lot of reasons, but the main reason I think it's not good is it means your journey is not intuitive, right? Nobody wants to talk to CX. I think we're great. People don't want to talk to us. So if they're having to reach out, something went wrong. Their order isn't arriving on time. The experience isn't intuitive. They're not getting tracking. They're confused through the process. That doesn't make you want to have that experience again. So that's one that I always look at and I think is really key. Secondarily, customer satisfaction. First response time is a big one. Like, are you staffed appropriately? Is your workforce management working? Those metrics, like at a high level, I think are really important. Outside of the health, though, they don't tell you much. They don't tell you how to improve the business. So I think it's really important to set up not only those top tier metrics that everyone talks about. I'll stick with CPO, FRT, and CSAT. You also, NPS too, I'd be amiss if I'd, yeah.
You just said 4 acronyms that
Yeah,
you
can you explain those for the
Yeah,
listeners that might
sorry.
not know
Okay,
that?
let me rewind.
CPO.
CPO, contacts per order. Out of all the orders that you're shipping, how many of those customers are reaching out at as a percent of that number? So if you ship 100 orders and you have 10 customers reach out, then your contacts per order is 10%, just to keep the math simple.
Okay. FRT.
FRT, first response time. The customer has a problem, they reach out to you. How long is it taking you to respond to that customer? So most companies look for like a 24-hour. It's also sometimes referred to as your SLA, service level agreements at a high level. But how quickly are you responding to your customers? How quickly are you getting them information? I think we've all emailed support and then been like, they haven't responded for 5 days. Like, I'm now livid, not just mad. Then CSAT, customer satisfaction, that's a really good one to measure the success of your actual agents and like how quickly are they responding? What does that look like? And so customer satisfaction, CSAT, is how many of your customers as a rate of their experience are rating you 1 to 5 star. Some companies look at it as like a 1 to 5. Some look at it as a 0 to 100%. And then what was the last one?
NPS.
NPS, Net Promoter Score. So Net Promoter is basically how many of your customers are willing to refer other people. So they get an email. NPS is, people get confused with NPS. NPS is only, would you refer this company 1 to 5 star? Any other phrasing of that question is not Net Promoter Score. So I think it's important to call that out because a lot of people will be like, oh, our NPS, and it's actually CSAT. It like is truly a technical term that has to be asked with that question.
Yeah, NPS is one that I think a lot of people also screw up their scoring of, because you actually throw away any of the numbers that are like it's like between 3 and 7 you throw away, right? So it's like either 1 or 2 or 8, 9, 10 are the only scores you actually count.
Yep, the neutrals don't matter.
All right, this is great. You know, I think we do need to wrap up. Is there any last words of wisdom you wanna throw out? No pressure to
I'm
just
like, is there anything you guys think we missed that we need to, do you want me to add in? Do you want me to talk for a minute about like the secondary metrics? So like obviously CSAT, knowing that CSAT is
yeah,
at
be great.
80% tells you the health of your organization. Like, what do you do next?
Yeah, that'd be huge.
Okay, cool. We'll go data this route. So should I use CPO? Because that's the one we like kind
Yeah.
of.
If
Okay.
CPO is the hero metric, go for that.
Yeah. So CPO, I think, is the hero metric for a few reasons. One, reducing your inbounds, reduce your costs. And again, every dollar counts as a startup. So being able to reduce the customer journey and make that experience better, but also not put the pressure on your CX team, I think is super important. So what do you do if you have a CPO that's super high? One, make sure that it is high for your industry because every industry is different. So you can do a quick Google search at chat, ask OpenAI, ChatGPT-4, like what should my contacts per order be? And that's kind of the first step. Then secondarily, it's making sure that like you set up your CX org, or if you don't have a CX org, you set up your processes around CX to collect data on why people are reaching out. And the first step is to just pivot that. You know exactly how many inbounds you're getting. What are the reasons for those inbounds? Let's pivot them out. Let's understand why people are contacting us. And then let's work on reducing those inbound contacts. So that walk, crawl, run model, right? You may not be able to reduce inbound contacts by spending a ton of money on engineering a new process to trigger comms about your orders, but you can look to see like maybe there's confusion, right? So a customer is confused about what size to get. Update your FAQs. That's something every company can do. Put that information out there. Not every customer is going to go read your FAQs before emailing you. Some people want that instant gratification, but you'll reduce your inbounds 10%, 12%, depends on the type of customer you have, but it will definitely drop. So understanding why people are contacting you is kind of the first step. And then you can look at each one and say, okay, what's a short-term fix to reduce inbound volume and confusion? What's a secondary step and what's a third step? And eventually you hopefully have the budget and the numbers make sense to invest in reducing that further. But up front, you at least can make the customer journey a little bit less stressful for the masses.
That's awesome. I think that that's a great place to end. Yeah, thanks so much for coming on, Rebecca.
Yeah, of course, it was fun. Thanks for having me.
This was great.
Actually, one last thing before we finish. If somebody wants to find you, if somebody wants to connect with you, anything that you want to pub,
I don't really have anything to pub. I guess they could add me on LinkedIn.
great. I think that's awesome. Again, thanks so much for coming.
Thanks, y'all.